So in our last session, we did discuss about server-side UI actions. See, first of all, let me begin with from scratch. UI actions are clickable, which can be, you can actually click on them. On click, if you want to do something, you can use UI actions. UI actions are clickable. Okay. So in the UI actions, we have client-side UI actions. We have server-side UI actions. We have two type of UI actions. By default, UI actions work on server side. By default, UI action work on server side. Let me just show you. So we have created UI action on the incident form, right? So we have created requested item UI action. So this one is a server side UI action. How can you define that this is a server side UI action? This client checkbox is not checked. If this client checkbox is checked, then this is a client side UI action. And similarly, create catalog task. This UI action is actually a server side UI action because this client checkbox is not checked. And similarly, this is also a server side UI action because client checkbox is not checked. So we have created a server side UI actions. Server side UI actions. When do we go for server side UI action? If you want to do the CRUD operations, CRUD operations, CRUD operations on the database, if you want to do the CRUD operations on the database, then you will go for server side UI actions. Okay. CRUD operations, guys, you can do it on same table. You can do it on another table. So incident is the current table. On the incident table, you can do the CRUD operation. Okay. On the other tables, you can do the CRUD operations. Getting my point? If it is something related to CRUD operations on database, then you go for server side UI actions. Okay. Let me give you one example. Okay. So in the incident form, I should see a button called create incident task. Whenever I click on that button, it has to create a incident task. Here in this requirement, create operation is there. Creating the record on the incident task operation is there. Right. As create operation is there, then you'll go for server side UI action. You'll create incident task UI action. You will make that as a server side UI action. Because that includes CRUD operation, right? If it is something related to database insertion or updation or reading the data and deleting the data, then you have to go for server side UI action. Okay. You guys are clear, right? Okay. Now in today's session, we will be understanding client side UI actions. After understanding the client side UI action, then we will understand client and server both. Okay. Okay. So in the incident form, so we have created a UI action. We have created a UI action that is actually work in progress. Before I make it work in progress, I have to check if the assigned to field is filled in or not. If the assigned to field is filled in, that is fine. If the assigned to field is not filled in, I have to stop the form submission. Getting my point? So whenever you click on the button, it has to check if the assigned to field value is filled in or not. If the assigned to field value is filled in, that's fine. If the assigned to field value is not filled in, it has to stop the form submission. In this requirement, do we have any CRUD operations? No, we are not creating any record. We are not updating any record. We are not deleting any record. We are not reading any record. So we are not updating it. I'll show you. So I am making this as a client side UI action, guys. Okay. Observe me closely here. I am making this as a client side UI action. Check the client checkbox. As soon as you check the client checkbox, you will be able to see a on-click field. This field will appear only when you check the client checkbox. Okay. So I am just removing the server side script from here because we made it as client, right? So what I am writing here is check assign to. Okay, on-click function you defined here. So that function you have to declare it here. Okay. Guys, remember, this is very important. You have to check the on-click checkbox here. Sorry, you have to check the client checkbox here. As soon as you check the client checkbox, you have to provide the on-click function here. You have to declare that on-click function here in the script. Within this script, you can write only client-side script, guys. Within this function only, you can write client-side script. Client-side script in the sense glide user, glide form, glide ajax. All these are actually client-side script. Current object doesn't comes under client script. Glide record doesn't comes under client script. Okay, these are actually server-side scripts. So in this function, you can only write client-side scripting, guys. So here I am taking assign to value, where assign to is equal to g underscore form dot get value assign to field name. So we are taking assign to field value, guys. Okay, assign to field name you are taking using g underscore form dot get value. If assign to equal to empty, if assign to equal to empty, I am writing an error message g underscore form dot will write show field message. Return false. Return false will stop the form submission, guys. Return false will stop the form submission. So I have created a work in progress UI action and which I made it as client side UI action. And I defined a on click function. I declared that on click function here. Within this on click function, I am able to write a client side script here. Guys, remember outside this function, I can write server side script. Outside this function, I can write server-side script. Clear, right? Outside this function, outside of this function, I can write server-side script. Okay. So we have written client-side script and we are checking if the assigned to field value is empty or not. If it is empty, we are actually showing the field message and we are stopping the form submission. You go to the form here. So let me click on work in progress here. So what is it telling? Assigned to is mandatory. Assigned to is mandatory. Okay. We are checking if the assigned to is mandatory or not. If the assigned to field value is filled in or not. Now it is filled in. Okay. It is doing nothing here. It has to now update the record. Okay. It has to now update the record. Getting my point? So now to update the record, I have to move from client side to server side. So how can I move from client side to server side? I am writing else part here. If the field is not filled in, else means if the field is filled in. You have to use a line called GSFT submit. GSFT submit null comma G underscore form dot get form element comma UI action name. The UI action name is this one, WIP. This line will take you out of the client side script, guys. So this line will make you move out of this function. Understand? This line, GSFT submit line, is used to move outside from client side function to server side script. This is very important, guys. This GSFT submit null G underscore form dot get form element and UI action name. This line will help you to move from client side function to the server side script. So it will come out of the script. Okay. So when you are moving from client side to server side, if you have any browser errors or not, it will check. When you are moving from client side to server side, it will check if you have any browser errors or not. To check that, we have to use this line if type of window is equal to undefined. So this line meaning is when you are moving from client side to server side, if there are any browser errors or not, it will check. If no browser, undefined means no browser errors. If no browser errors. So within this condition, you can write server side scripting, guys. You can write server side scripting. This line will move you out of the client side function and it is throwing you to the server side script. In the server side script, I am keeping current object here. Current object is a server side object. Current dot state is equal to in progress. Okay. I am using current dot update to update the incident record. Okay. So I am showing an error message. GS stands for glide system, guys. Okay, that is used to show the that is used to show the messages. Usually we will use G underscore form dot add information message, G underscore form dot add error message to show the messages, right? But in the server side, we will use GS dot add information message, GS dot add error message to show the messages. Okay. We have to redirect the URL to the same record, action dot. Okay. Now, when I click on this button, what is it telling? Assign to is mandatory. Okay. If it is, I am just selecting this value. If it is not mandatory, see, if it is empty, it is showing the field message. If it is not empty, you can see the state will be marked as in progress. You can see state is set to in progress. It is updated in the database. You understand, right? It is updated in the database. First of all, whenever you click on this button, it will check if this field is filled in or not. If this field is filled in, it will actually mark the state as in progress. It will show the message. It will actually redirect to the URL to the same URL. Okay. If the field is not filled in, it will show the error message. It will actually stop the form submission. That is what the logic that I have written here. If the assigned to field is not filled in, if the assigned to is empty, empty means not filled in. You are showing the field message and you are stopping the form submission. Else you are actually moving outside of the client side function. You are going to the server side script. You are actually marking the state as in progress. You are updating the current record and you are showing the field, you are showing the message and you are actually redirecting the URL to the same URL. Hope you are clear. Okay. Now we understand, right, how the UI action work on both client side and server side. Here, the point is, sure. So guys, this line will actually help you to move from client side script to server side script. When you are moving from client side to server side script, we have some browser errors. So you can see those browser errors in the inspection. Okay, if you have any browser errors or not, you can see these are actually errors, browser errors. So if you have any browser errors or not, it will check. If no browser errors found, only then it will allow you to move from client side to server side. Okay. If there are actually errors found in the browser, it won't allow you to move from client side to server side. Guys, remember here what I had to do, I had to check if the assigned to field value is filled in or not. If not filled in, I had to stop the form submission. If filled in, I have to update the state into in progress in the database. So then what I have used first of all I have used client side script. Then I have moved to server side script. Okay. No, sir. If you don't want to go server side script, you did not get chance. You did not actually get a requirement to use server side script. You can only write client side script. You can only write client side script, guys. Okay. Clear, right? Okay. Fine. We'll see the same requirement for on hold state as well. On hold state we did not. Okay, close. We'll see for close. So we are marking the state as closed, right? And we are updating the record into the database and we are showing the message here and we are redirecting the same URL. I am removing this line of script here, guys. Okay. Well, I am making this as a client side UX. Okay. So when I click on close UI action, where is this close UI action? It is active. But here on the form, where is this close? This close button will appear only when the state is resolved. Let me remove this condition so that it will appear everywhere. Okay, now you can see the close button here. You are able to see the close button here. So whenever you click on this button, first of all, I have to check if the work notes are actually filled in or not. If the work notes are filled in, then fine. We should mark the state as closed. If the work notes are not filled in, we have to stop the form submission. Okay. To check if this field value is filled in or not, to stop the form submission, remember this point. To check this field value is filled in or not, to stop the form submission, we are using client-side script. Okay. To update the state as closed, we are using server-side script. Okay. First of all, whenever you click on this button, I have to check if the work notes field value is filled in or not. If the work notes field value is filled in, okay. If the work notes field value is filled in, we have to mark the state as closed. If the work notes field value is not filled in, we have to stop the form submission. Very first thing, we have to take the work notes field name. Work notes field name is actually work underscore notes, guys. Work underscore notes. Use VD. VD means view data. We can see work notes. Work notes field name is work underscore notes, guys. Okay. I check the client checkbox. You have to declare this function in the script, guys. Okay. So within this function, you can write only client-side script. You cannot write glide record here. You cannot write current object here. You can only write glide user, glide form, glide ajax. Only client-side script you can write it here. Okay. Where W notes is equal to G underscore form dot get value work notes. If W notes work notes is equal to empty. Okay. G underscore form dot add error message. We have to stop the form submission using return false. Okay. Using return false, we have to stop the form submission. Clear, right? Okay. So if it is not empty, we have to move from client side function to server side function using GSFT submit function. If type of window, guys, if you don't use this line, the logic won't work, guys. Remember. Type of window is equal to undefined. Okay. There is an error it is showing. Okay. Current dot state is equal to 6. Okay. Current dot update. GS dot add info message. We have to redirect the URL to the same URL. To redirect the URL to the same URL, we'll have to use action dot. Okay. Save this one. Clear, right? Okay, I just clicked on close button here. What is it telling? Work notes are mandatory. Because we did not fill the work notes, right? Now I am just filling. So I just provided the work notes here. When I click on close button, when I click on close button, it will actually mark the state as closed. You can see it is moving from client side to server side. What is it telling? Data policy exception. The following fields are mandatory. What is it telling? Data policy exception. Data policies will work from all the sources I told you, right? Okay. So in that case, what we are supposed to do, it hasn't updated the state as closed because data policy is not allowing. Because when the state is closed, you must provide the resolution code and notes. It is what it is telling. That is why I was actually showing this UI action, this close UI action only on the resolved state. Okay. Close code, I am just providing solution provided. Close notes. So here I am just providing current dot so whenever I click on close button, it is saying work notes are mandatory. So now I am filling the work notes here. I am clicking on close here. Now you can see it is marking the state as state 6, 6 I kept. I am supposed to keep 7 here. Here it is supposed to be 7. 7 means closed. 6 means resolved. Okay. So hope you guys are clear, guys. Hope you guys are clear. Okay. Now we will see one more UI action. So here in the UI action, in the UI action, we will create one more UI action called on hold. On hold UI action. Whenever I mark the state as on hold, this field is appearing, it is mandatory, right? Hmm? If this on hold reason field value is not filled in, we should not actually allow them to mark it as on hold. Okay. Hold reason 1534. Okay. First of all, I am creating a UI action called on hold UI action. Okay. So, well, here we'll just change everything here. So, UI action name, what we have kept here on hold, right? We have to keep it here. Okay. Then on hold means 3. So, we don't have to provide this. I have created a on hold UI action, guys, that will appear on the form. So, if this on hold reason field value is not filled in, so whenever I click on this button, whenever I click on this button, what is happening? Nothing is happening. Okay, this variable name we have to change here. What is it telling? On hold reason is mandatory. But on hold reason field is not appearing, right? We have to show that field. Okay, we have to show that field. G underscore form dot. You can see on hold reason is mandatory. So instead of showing this message, we can show the field message. That would be great, right? I'm just clicking on hold here. So what is it telling? On hold reason is mandatory. I'm just filling the on hold reason field. When I click on hold again, state is set to on hold. Okay, clear, right? So guys, here remember, yesterday we have seen only server side UI actions. In today's session, we have seen client side UI actions plus server side. Okay, only within this function only you can write a client side script, guys. Outside of this function, you can write again server side script. Outside of this function, again you can write a server side script, guys. Remember, to move s- to move from this client side function to server side script, you have to use this line. So, guys, definitely there will be an entry question. How can you move from client side to server side in the UI actions? UI actions are client side or server side, they will ask you. Can you write server side script and client side scripting both at a time in the UI action means? Yes. Here we are able to write glide form. We are able to write current object here in the same script, right? This is a client side script. This is a server side script. UI action is the only place. UI action is the only place where you can write client side scripting and server side scripting at a time. Okay. But in another cases, in another scripts like client scripts, you can only write client side scripts, client side APIs. In business rule is a server side script. You can only write server side scripts. But UI action is the only one where you can write a client side script and server side script together. Okay. UI action is such a unique feature, guys, which can be shown on the forms, which can be shown on the lists. Okay. Well, UI actions work on both client side and server side. By default, it will work on the server side. If you check the client checkbox, and if you define the on-click function, if you write something in the on-click function, it will work on the client side. If you want to move from client side to server side, you have to use this line GSFT submit function. Okay. You can only write server side script. You can only write client side script. You can write client side script and server side script both at a time. Okay. You guys are clear, right? Okay. So guys, here same UI action you can show it on the list as well. But if you show this one in the list, what is the use, guys? It is of no use if you show it in the list. Because, guys, remember, glide form will work only on the form. Glide form will not work on the list again. Okay, glide form will work only on the form. Glide form will not work on the list again. This glide form is used to make the changes on the form is what I told you. I did not tell you that glide form is used to make the changes on the list. So as you are using glide form here, okay, if you use this UI action in the list, that is of no use. If you go to the incident list, you will be able to see the UI action, but it won't do anything. It doesn't work actually. Incident dot list. So you will be able to see work in progress. What is the use of it when I click on this one? Nothing will happen. Okay. If you want to create this UI action separately for list, you have to again create this UI action separately for list. Okay. I am not showing this one in the form. Okay. I am just showing in the list. Okay. Clear, right? Uh, all records. Okay. So this is a list UI action. Here we should not use glide form, G underscore form. We should use G underscore list. G underscore dot get G underscore dot G underscore dot sorry G underscore list. G underscore list will work in the this is called glide list, guys. G underscore list dot get checked. So get checked means here in the list you have these checkboxes. How many incidents you checked here? These records system IDs you will get it, guys. These records system IDs you will get it. Okay. After that, if this is empty, if no checkbox is checked, okay, if it is empty, I have to show a message select at least one record, select at least one incident. So G underscore form dot add information message, add error message will not work on the list. I am just using alert here. Please select at least one incident. Okay. If at least one incident is selected, we can again write a glide ajax here. We can again write glide ajax here. So, Uday, why do we have to write glide ajax here? We can write server side script in the UI action itself, right? Why do we have to write a glide ajax here again? Guys, you can move from client side to server side script. Okay, but you can't pass the values. That is the problem. You can move from client side to server side script in the UI action. So if you use GSFT submit line, null comma G underscore form dot G underscore form dot get form element, the UI action name. What it does, it will actually help you move from client side script to server side script outside of this function. Fine, that is fine. But how can you pass this incident system IDs? You are checking the checkboxes, right? These checkboxes record system IDs, you will get it. That system IDs, how do you move from, where is that? Yeah, how do you move these selected record system IDs from client side to server side? You cannot move it using GSFT submit function. See, you cannot pass the values using GSFT submit function, guys. GSFT submit function will allow you move from client side to server side script, but you can't pass the values. Okay. To pass the values, you should not use GSFT submit function. Again, you have to write a glide ajax here. So using glide ajax, you can pass values from client side to server side. You can get values from server side to client side. So using glide ajax, you can pass values these checked in incident record system IDs to server side, and from that server side script you can receive the values to the client side. So here you have to write a glide ajax. Using glide ajax, whichever the records, whatever the records assigned to is not empty, those records you can you can make them as work in progress. Okay. So here GSFT submit, in place of GSFT submit, you have to use glide ajax here, guys. Okay. Using glide ajax, Using custom parameter, you can pass these values in the script include. You can get that value using this dot get parameter, the custom parameter name. Okay, that is how you will actually pass the values from client side to server side using GlideAjax. Okay, from server side also you can get the values to the client side using GlideAjax. So here GSFT submit won't work here because you can't pass these values to the server side here. That is why we are writing GlideAjax. Okay, let me just stop the recording, guys.